Now, after 4 months, oil prices are starting to return to their levels from before the U.S. and Israel launched a war with Iran. Right now, Brent crude it's just above $70 there. You see WTI at almost $72, Brent over $75. The shift comes as shipping traffic is starting to tentatively return to the Strait of Hormuz after Iran and the U.S. reached a framework of a deal to end the conflict. But the route is far from secure. The UN Maritime Agency is pausing its efforts to shepherd stranded ships through the strait after a vessel was attacked today in the Gulf of Oman. Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps says that only routes designated by Tehran can be used to pass through the strait, and any vessels moving through on other routes are putting themselves in danger. Volker is a former U.S. ambassador to NATO and former U.S. Special Representative for Ukraine negotiations. He currently serves as a distinguished fellow at the Center for European Policy Analysis and a senior advisor for the Atlantic Council. Ambassador, I really want to thank you for joining us. I can only imagine what you're thinking when you hear about the confusion there still in the strait. I mean, do you think this is a form of negotiation for Iran at this point? And it means that there will be lots of stops and starts to this process over the next few weeks?
Well, you could call it a form of negotiation. You could call it a form of pressure. Basically, Iran feels that it has gained control over the Strait of Hormuz. It has gotten everyone's assent, including the United States, that the shipping lanes will move east through Iranian territorial waters, not in the Gulf of Oman where they used to be. They will charge fees for security, for dredging the channels, for removing mines, for you name it. And they will require coordination with Iranian authorities before a vessel goes in or comes out of the strait. And this is something that they are already beginning to impose. The memorandum of understanding says free passage, but it's not really clear what free passage means if you're talking about issues like safety and security. And you have clients of Iran, people who want to buy Iranian oil, like China, like Pakistan, who are perfectly happy to pay a little fee as well. So Iran is asserting its control over this. And it knows the U.S. does not want to re-engage in massive military action, so it thinks it can get away with this.
No, in fact, it does seem at times that the United States has completely taken any of its leverage off the table. Iran's top negotiator, in fact, is denying U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance's claim that Tehran will use its unfrozen funds to buy American crops. And this is what was tweeted earlier. The only crop we're harvesting is what you planted. Decades of mistrust. To say that that is provocative is an understatement. Ambassador, what does this tell you? I mean, really,
Right.
what does this tell you about this MOU and where we might go next with this?
Yes, there's a rule that anyone negotiating anything should remember, which is that anything that is not in the agreement is open. It's the same as it was before. It's not restricted in any way. So we might have a few terms in this MOU that we will point to and say, okay, there's a ceasefire. Okay, we're going to have a future negotiation about Iran's nuclear program. But anything else that's not in there, like Iran's support for Hezbollah, Iran's support for Hamas, Iran's intention to attack American interests around the world, those things all remain. And what we have now is an Iranian regime that is emboldened, is now also getting funds, and is going to continue its theocratic, its ideological crusade against the West for as far as we can see. And we may decide, look, it's not worth fighting a war over that. That's a fine choice, but we have to be prepared for dealing with that Iran that still exists.
Yeah, it may not have been worth starting a war over it as well. I do want to move on to Ukraine, especially given your experience. I mean, look, you and I both saw that the G7 leaders say they want this Iran conflict done and dusted. They supported the MOU. How much do you believe that can clear the way for attention and resources to now concentrate on Ukraine? We saw the NATO Secretary General in the Oval yesterday trying to set the table for the NATO summit to come. I mean, you're in Poland right now, right? How crucial is it that maybe finally they can get to some kind of ceasefire, to have Vladimir Putin agree to that if they can't get to a deal?
Right. Well, I think, talking with Europeans here in Poland, there's a little bit of a sigh of relief that the U.S. has been distracted from the Russia-Ukraine war, because U.S. involvement has been one of supporting Putin and putting pressure on Ukraine, which none of them agree with. So it's been a nice respite. During that respite, Ukraine has turned the tide of the war. Ukraine now has an advantage over Russia in drones, counter drones, electronic warfare, long range strikes with strategic impact, as opposed to what Russia does, which has civilian impact. Taking out Russian logistics, Crimea is now in a very perilous position because of the inability of Russia to provide supplies, including fuel. So this war has taken a turn in Ukraine's favor. The U.S. has been largely out of it for the past several months, partly because of the war against Iran. And I think seeing that Russia is gradually losing and Ukraine is gradually winning, President Trump and the Trump administration have gradually taken a more Ukraine supportive, or at least a soft line with respect to Ukraine, thinking that they actually might come out ahead here. And that's been very welcome.
Ambassador Volker, though, I just want to lean on your experience. How does NATO, the European allies, get this over the line? Because we could still be heading into another winter here with this conflict continuing.
Yeah, well, I have to say, I do think another winter is the most likely scenario. But the only way this war ends, let's be clear about this. Vladimir Putin started this war. The only reason it continues is because he still thinks he can defeat Ukraine and take over its territory and its leadership. And he is not persuaded otherwise, but he is losing. He is losing territory, he's losing troops, he's losing money. And at a certain point, Putin is going to need a ceasefire. If we want to accelerate an end to the war, we have to increase that pressure on Putin so he thinks that he needs a ceasefire sooner rather than later. At this stage, people are helping, Europe is helping. They've given Ukraine a 90 billion euro loan to invest in its industry, but Putin still thinks he can ride this out. The more we can pile on, the better. It's possible to get a ceasefire this year, but I think Putin wants one more shot at Ukraine's electricity grid this winter before he finally gives it up.
Yeah, your words are chilling to anyone in Ukraine right now. We will see what happens in this NATO summit, as again, those leaders are clear that they want Iran done so that they can concentrate on Ukraine. Ambassador Volker, once again, thanks so much for your insights. Appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.